We need to figure out what was it that made the people who are not subscribed stop watching. Did we not get to the point fast enough?
To the retention graph.
And I'm gonna tell you, this is going to be one of my favorite analytics in the entire thing. And you definitely need to watch a YouTube video for this because this is highly visual. They've added so many new features to this page over the last couple of years that it makes me go from like guesstimating to knowing. So when you're here.
And this is a big one. This one is a big difference from desktop to mobile.
Yeah.
Mobile is a good little check. How you doing? We're looking good. Cool. We're not going to learn that much from mobile.
Yeah.
Unless everyone stopped watching your video, in which case you'll know that.
You probably already know. So we're on desktop here. I hit so audience retention. This is what is kind of the definitive percentages of view duration during the video. The second one, which I think is really important, is you're comparing your video's audience retention to other videos on YouTube of the same length. And this tells you whether your retention is above average, average, or below, because it's kind of impossible to know how long the average retention is for a 5-minute, 52-second video, which this is. This video did very well. See,
this is a great one. We need to pause on the fact that you can do this because I think that throughout coaching so many creators, especially smaller creators, the desire to compare and ask questions for, well, what's normal, or what should I try to get, or what's, what click-through rate do I need for my video to do good? And it's not about a specific number, and it is so different from space to space.
Right.
So this is such a huge, huge analytic. I feel like nobody's talking about that either.
They don't. Only I do. But here's the thing. If I didn't show you, only me. I'm the only one smart enough to do this.
He made this analytic.
If you looked at this without the comparison, like right now you look at it, it says average 2 minutes and 25 seconds. And again, this is a 5-minute video. It's almost 6 minutes, 5:52. And it says 41% watched. You wouldn't know if that's good or bad. You would think, oh, that's kind of bad. It's not even 50% retention.
Bad.
But when you bring up compared to other videos, the entire timeline is either above average or average. None of it is below average.
Opening. You go, Rob.
Right. Look at that. Way above average on the opening. 30 seconds in, it says way above average. But if you look at it in a void just by itself, you're like, oh, I screwed up. No, actually, you didn't. You did really well. Then the next one, which is newer one, is the detailed activity. So when you look at the regular retention graph, you can kind of tell where people left as things go lower. That means people left. But they gave this detailed activity where you can see literally how many people left at what point in the timeline, which is insane, right? This is probably detail that the vast majority of you watching this don't even need.
Stay out of this.
Yeah, this is in the weeds. Don't. This is the weeds. This is that you're 7 feet under weeds area.
Now, is this truly just abandoning content or skipping ahead? Is it everyone who left at this moment, like clicked off the video, or do we know that?
Well, what's interesting is this says start watching and stop watching. So it implies that they stopped watching. When you look at the normal graph and you see these peaks in the middle of nowhere, like in the middle, that implies either A, if you have a timestamp there, that they clicked the timestamp, that's where he started, or that they rewound or fast forwarded to that point. So it's a great question, Jen. In this detailed thing, they say stopped watching. So they're implying that they left. And we have to take them at their word because we have no other way of knowing. But what we can see here is that every once in a while, these little peaks at different parts of the video. And since this isn't a timestamp video because it's like a 5-minute video, we have to infer that these little peaks mean that people rewound. A rewound, not even fast forward, but rewound.
Plus, they're smaller. Like when you see someone skip ahead, it's a big.
Yeah.
It's a big. Well, typically, it's a much bigger spike.
Especially if a lot of people do it. Yeah. So that's retention, and I love looking at retention. This just gives you an idea. Now, so what do you do with this information? Pretty simple. You watch it while this little red line is going past, and as you see a peak go up, really pay attention to what happened to the 5 seconds or so before it and the 5 seconds after, and figure out why was that part watched so heavily or rewound or whatever. And there's little tricks you can do, like what I've done in the past, and I'd love to hear if you've done anything, Jen. I've put text on screen, but not put it up really long enough to read it all the way so that people rewind.
Same.
It's a little trick. Like, should you do that? You could argue you shouldn't do that.
Same. I think that's a pretty common one. or like a lot of text.
Yeah.
And I mean, how long are you really going to let it roll?
Right.
If it's a lot of text.
Exactly.
I would say any type of graphic where there's information to take in, you're going to get a click back. There's also like errors, like if something audio wise, someone couldn't understand you, couldn't hear you. I mean, those aren't necessarily on purpose.
Yeah, sometimes they're wrong on purpose, but sometimes they're not. Like, I'm just wrong. I got it wrong. I apologize. But again, so you take all this information, you listen to it, you go, okay, what did I say here that made people stay? And then you look for those dips and you go, okay, what did I say or do here that made people leave? I remember very early on when I was looking at my videos a long time ago, one of the things I looked at was, drop-off rates, like why? And I noticed that if I had either myself or B-roll on for too long a period of time, people seem to drop off and get bored. So it was you had to continually balance and mix in how often you're on screen with B-roll and things that made sense. And a lot of times if you just really pay attention, you can tell why someone stopped watching or listening.
You can.
Yeah.
And these are things like you want to identify these as patterns. Not like I'm never going to do this in a video again, but if I'm making, a very highly discoverable video or a search-driven video, am I going to have 1.5 minutes of, music and B-roll in the beginning? Well, maybe not. Does that mean it doesn't make sense for community content? No.
Mm-hmm.
It can all be different, but you really want to compare similar types of videos when analyzing this information.
Yes. Similar length videos, similar topic videos, 100%. That's actually so critical, which is why I don't tend to encourage people to look at the channel-wide analytics, especially when it comes to retention and click-through rate, because different videos are completely different and the topics themselves might have their own subcategory. There's a whole way to break down individual things, but I think that's kind of beyond the scope of this. If you want to get super deep in analytics, you should sign up for coaching, which there's a link in the description and in the show notes. They can help you kind of understand grouping things and all that sort of jazz.
Yeah.